Exactly what happened to Dick Cheney in the moments after the initial blast of the first jet that hit the World Trade Center.
Well, Paula, what happened to Dick Cheney was the Secret Service rushed into his office and said, "Sir, come with us. No questions asked. We're moving, and we're moving now." And they hustled him into a bunker at the White House that is designed to withstand a nuclear attack. That bunker also has a command and control center from which the president or the vice president can direct U.S. military and other operations from. Now, as for moving up to Camp David, the White House has implemented the protocol it has in place for the event of a nuclear attack. That is what the White House has been following, the highest level security protocol. So we will see the president and the vice president at times unannounced moving around. There will be a premium on keeping the vice president and the president at separate locations. So if one is attacked, the other is at a different location. He was moved up to Camp David. There was some concern within the administration, should he make a public statement. We did see him, though, sitting at the president's side yesterday at national security briefings up there. And I would say to all of our viewers, we are in an environment that is unprecedented. The White House telling us there will be some things happening that they will not explain to us. They've asked us to show good judgment in reporting what we know about the president's location at any given moment because they say there is a threat. So we're in a very unprecedented environment here, and understand the concern of the viewers. We had it as well. Where is the vice president? Why can't we talk to him? But we are assured he is well. We saw him yesterday, and we're going to have to sort this out in the days and weeks and perhaps even months ahead as the administration responds to this.
All right, thanks so much, John. Bill and Miles, we're going to take a short break here as we land very close to the top of the hour. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Paula Zahn reporting from New York this morning. You may hear the faint sound of church bells ringing. They have been ringing all morning long from parishes all across the city this morning. Now for the very latest from what is happening at Ground Zero, we will have an update on plans for Wall Street's reopening tomorrow. And we're going to check in on Sunday morning church services in Omaha, Nebraska. Also ahead, this.
This doesn't seem possible or believable yet to me, so I just keep expecting him to come back or walk in the door.
Well, she may have a new baby girl, but the little girl no longer has a dad. Unfortunately, not the first time we're going to hear this story. We're also going to take a look inside of the mind of bin Laden and tell you why many believe he was very capable of bankrolling this disaster. Now it's time to update you on some of the other latest developments in America's new war. Pakistan is demanding that the Taliban rulers in Afghanistan hand over Osama bin Laden or face the military wrath of the United States. Wall Street reopens tomorrow morning after the longest shutdown in recent history, but it will not be business as usual. The markets are expected to be volatile as airlines and blue-chip firms brace for tough economic times. 22,000 tons of rubble have been hauled away from Ground Zero, but that is just a fraction of the wreckage from the World Trade Center. President Bush has told Americans we are at war, and military reservists will be recalled to active duty for what the Pentagon is calling Operation Noble Eagle. Okay, back to my location here, which is far north of Ground Zero. I wanted to point out that you can still see, 5 days later, smoke coming from Ground Zero. But today we're told some of that smoke is mixed with steam. The steam coming from the fact that rescuers have been hosing down the area overnight. And when the flames underneath, of course, are hit by the air, it restarts this process all over again. Bill Hemmer joins us not far from there right now with an update on how rescue efforts are going. Once again, the mayor saying that this is a rescue operation until all hope is extinguished. Hi, Bill.
Indeed, Paula, good morning once again, 9 a.m. East Coast time, and I can tell you with the sun up right now, quite a bit of activity right now. And the tempo is upbeat. There's a bit of enthusiasm running through here, but again, this is the beginning of another day now, day 6. What I can tell you is the amazing contrast later in the day into the evening hours when the folks who go in then come out. And talking with some folks last night around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, these are people who are big, macho people, 6'4", 6'5". They're steel fabricators who go in and work 12, 14 hours at a time. And to see them walking on the streets of Manhattan after they leave here, a lot of them appear to be like zombies, trying to digest and understand what they have witnessed the previous day, going through body parts and clothing and other articles that they find in the rubble behind us here. But again, they're the lucky ones. They're going home to their families at night, and now we know close to 5,000 at this point still missing. And Paula, we give you the numbers throughout the day here, and to many it may seem like numbers, but they are so much more than that. 4,972 still listed as missing at this point. Only 159 confirmed fatalities, and no survivors have been pulled from the rubble since Wednesday of this past week, which was 5 days ago. It's a painstaking process. We've been reporting throughout the week. The body bags that come in, if bodies are found intact, they are removed in their separate bag. But even the smallest of body parts are issued in a separate body bag so that down the road, at some point, through DNA testing, those body parts can be identified. More numbers. 22,000 tons of rubble removed as of late yesterday, but some here say that number could have reached to 500,000 in total before the entire operation is complete. And some workers coming out throughout the morning here and last night are saying that this process could easily go on for another month, and possibly some are saying it could approach 2 months in length. One thing based on technology in the year 2001, a new method is being used. It was employed late Friday, again on Saturday, through a collection of companies, Sprint, Lucent, AT&T, Verizon. They're calling it Wireless Emergency Response Team. What they're doing is they're asking families who are still missing people to call a number and give the cell phone to this team. They can then use technology to call that number, because these cell phones, if they're still left on, can emit a signal, and it's possible through the rescue efforts they can find those people with that signal being emitted. Going to give you a phone number just in case viewers at home want to get a hold of this one. It's 877-348-8579. Again, 877-348-8579, the number to call again for the Wireless Emergency Response Team. Again, the day is kicking in once again, and tomorrow, Paula, we look forward to the New York Stock Exchange getting back to some semblance of normalcy. It'll be far from normal again, but they do expect trading to begin 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, with the Secretary of the Treasury, Paul O'Neill, helping in ringing that opening bell tomorrow, followed by 2 minutes of silence on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. More on that and a lot more here from what's being considered ground zero in Lower Manhattan. Paula?
But Bill, I understand, even though the mayor has encouraged folks that have businesses down there to try to get in there today and clean up and try to figure out what they're going to have to deal with tomorrow when, you know, their operations are up and running. The National Guard is blocking still a bunch of streets down there, and some buildings don't even have electricity, right?
Indeed, yeah. We had to walk about a mile when we got dropped off. We got as far south as Canal Street, for those who are familiar with the grid here in Manhattan. Had to walk about a mile, 3/4 of a mile to get to our location. But with regard to Wall Street, they do expect a number of subway stops to be open tomorrow, but still a good number are going to be closed as well. And private traffic, they say, vehicle traffic, will not be allowed just yet. So again, as we start to see signs of life again flicker back to normalcy here, again, Paula, it's going to be a long process that continues throughout the coming week when we start heading back to work tomorrow on Monday.
Boy, Bill, as you were talking, I was just giving an interesting statistic that Con Edison is now saying it's going to have to lay down at least 20 miles of cable.
Wow.
To get electricity restored to that area.
Wow. They talked about electricity being knocked out. They also talked about telephone use being knocked out. And again, there's an ongoing effort to try and restore some of that. The Verizon building, by the way, Paul, it's behind us about 2 blocks, and many of our viewers may have been able to see that from various live locations that we have set up here in southern Manhattan. It is said that there was significant flooding in the basement of that building, and that controls a lot of the telephones and switching in this part of Manhattan. But the effort is ongoing to try and make sure those connections are established. But what we know at this time, it's an all-hands-on effort to try and get things as close to normal as possible.
All right, Bill, thanks. See you in a little bit. It is so disturbing for those of us who live here, and I know many of you have visited here, to look back at the skyline and see what it looks like this morning. And our producers have put together some tape for you to show what the city looked like at least until 8:45 last Tuesday morning. The proud 107 Twin Towers, of course, down in the 2 attacks in New York City. This is what the skyline looks like today. It's still very difficult to make out any of the buildings south of that cloud, still obscured by the smoke and steam. Lots of important things happening on the investigative front, and for that we go to Miles, who's standing by in Atlanta.
All right, thank you very much, Paula. I think it's worth taking a step back for just a moment. The lead story this morning as it relates to the investigation is another arrest. A material witness who was one of the 25 detainees in Immigration and Naturalization Service custody now shifts over into FBI custody, arrested with some material link to this plot. But let's go back for just a moment, take it flight by flight, and talk a little bit about the people who are the alleged hijackers on board. First of all, Flight 11, American Airlines Flight 11. This was the Boston to Los Angeles flight, the one that struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center, the first one. Mohammed Atta. We believe he is 33 years old, and the caveat in all of this is these are the names that were presented, the ID that was presented. They could be so-called cutouts, that is to say they aren't their real names, but nevertheless, 33 years old. Among the places he resided in recent memory was Hamburg, Germany. Remember that. There was a Harburg Technical University on his resume, a town planning major, and he and 2 others on other aircraft apparently were at that university at the same time. He came in and out of the States quite a bit. His last entry into the United States was to Atlanta in July of 2001. Also on that plane, Satam al-Sukami, 25 years old, United Arab Emirates, not much more known about him. Walid M. al-Shari, who also has links to South Florida. All these people on American Airlines Flight 11 had something to do with Hollywood, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, and flight schools in and around that area, including Embry-Riddle. Walid al-Shari seated near Atta and seated also near one other of the suspects who we're about to talk about in just a minute. Also, Wael al-Shari, once again, Hollywood, Florida, Newton, Massachusetts, also among the places he had been. Also a holder of a commercial pilot's license. And finally, Abdullah Alamari, once again, Hollywood, Florida, 28 years old, believed to be a pilot. Let's move on to United 175, the second flight to strike the World Trade Center, hitting the South Tower. Marwan al-Shihi, once again, Hamburg is a connection here, studied at the Harburg Technical University, and also spent some time in Hollywood, Florida. The remainder of the hijackers on this flight, Fayez Ahmed, Ahmed al-Ghamdi, Hamza al-Ghamdi, and Mohad al-Shari, all had residences in Delray Beach. So you get the sense that these cells, if you will, these teams were divided geographically at various locations near flight schools all around the country. American Flight 77, Dulles to Los Angeles. This is the one that ended up at the Pentagon. Khalid al-Midar was on that flight, and he lived in the San Diego area. He is the one that we are reporting this morning has been linked to the bombing on the USS Cole. This is perhaps one of the more definitive links to an alleged hijacker and the Osama bin Laden organization. There's surveillance tape taken from Malaysia linking this person to a suspect in the Cole attack. The Cole attack linked to Osama bin Laden. So a couple of steps there, a couple of degrees of separation, but nevertheless a linkage between the Cole explosion and thus Osama bin Laden to Khalid al-Midar. Majed Moked, we don't have anything on him. Nawak al-Zami, residences in New Jersey, also in Los Angeles, but also in San Diego. There's a big San Diego connection as well with many of these alleged hijackers. Salam al-Zami, Fort Lee and Wayne, New Jersey as well. And then Hani Hanjour, with possible residences in San Diego and Phoenix, where he apparently attended a flight school there. Now, let's move on to United Flight 93. This is the Newark to San Francisco flight. This is the flight which ultimately ended up crashing in Pennsylvania, but was believed to be headed toward the Washington area. Its target unknown. Some have suspected it might have been the U.S. Capitol, for example. Ziad Samir Jarrah. This is an interesting story. Once again, Hamburg is